Welcome to a Friday edition of Blue Collar Sports Talk. We're going to discuss some Husker sports, but more importantly, we're going to look at the Big Ten. Michigan takes on Minnesota. Maryland is on the road to take on Ohio State. We'll take a look at some Pac-12 teams. Arizona is at USC. Washington State is at UCLA. We'll look at a handful of SEC teams. Georgia will take on University of Kentucky. We'll take a look at a very big matchup between Texas and Oklahoma. With Roger in the house, we have to discuss some Major League Baseball. The wild cards wrapped up and the playoffs start Saturday. With the NBA preseason right around the corner, we'll also discuss some NBA. And now, here's our show. Hey, everybody, welcome to a Friday edition, Blue Collar Sports Talk. Daryl here, sitting across the microphone with Roger today.
Hello, how's everybody doing today?
And we're gonna jump right into it. We've got a bunch of stuff we want to talk about, and I just briefly wanted to bring up a University of Nebraska produced documentary, 92,003, Volleyball Day in Nebraska. If you go to Huskers.com, it's on there. The video is hosted on YouTube. I will try to leave a link, if I remember correctly, to leave a link in our YouTube and on our Spotify. If you listen on Spotify, please follow. If you listen on YouTube, please click the subscribe. And then volleyball also plays tonight. They are on the road. Tonight they play at 6 p.m. That's on Big Ten Plus, and it's back-to-back. They play tomorrow night, October 7th, Michigan. That's on Big Ten. And before we started recording, Roger was like, hey, who won the championship last year? And we were discussing that. And for a second, we thought it was Wisconsin, but Texas won last year. Wisconsin won the year before. Big Ten is tough. And then Texas is always good when it comes to volleyball. But that brings us to our next discussion, the conferences. The conferences this year are kind of on a level playing field. Wouldn't you say that? Some of the best conferences out there have escalated. Some of the other conferences, one that might be dying, the Pac-12, has really elevated its play this year with a few teams. And then the two teams that are going to leave the Big 12, Texas and Oklahoma, are playing amazing. So before we get to that, Nebraska plays Illinois tonight, and I'm shocked, honestly, that Brent Bielema's team isn't that good this year.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going on with it. I really don't. I pulled that up, and Illinois is favored by 3. They're 2-3. Nebraska's 2-3. That 3 points at home is kind of a flip of the coin, if you will. Not really sure what's going to happen.
Yeah, I have this being a very low scoring game. It might just be a lot of field goals. 3.5 is probably about right. Usually Huskers somehow lose these type of games by about a field goal. So I seen 3.5. So I guess I could take the Huskers on that note, but somehow I believe Huskers will probably end up losing this game by a last-second field goal or a last-second score to lose by a few points. So I think they got it about right. I believe the over-under is around 42, which sounds a little high to me. You know, I was thinking mid-30s at the most. Kind of a 2017 game, 17-14 game maybe. So
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Illinois just lost to Purdue. They scored 19 against Purdue, but Purdue put up 44 on them. I don't see us putting up 44 points on Illinois, which is really surprising for me when I'm looking at the yards allowed for passing and rushing. For a Brett Bielema coach team, they're averaging over 230 yards passing allowed a game and over 170 yards allowed rushing a game. So when I saw Illinois favored by 3, I was a little surprised.
Yeah.
You're taking, you said Nebraska will probably lose on a last second field goal. I think Nebraska wins outright if they don't have fumbles or turnovers and interceptions.
Yeah, exactly.
If they have one of those, they're done. But if Nebraska can put together a good game on the road, I'm saying they can, and I have them winning. And I'm right there with you, Roger. That 42 and a half on the overs,
yeah,
that seems drastically high.
Well, these games like this, Nebraska does have a turnover. Nebraska does have penalties. And they usually have 1 or 2 more turnovers than the other team, half a dozen penalties more than the other team, and somehow they keep it close. And then at the end, they just let the other team score.
Yeah.
It just seems like for 55 minutes, it looks like we're going to win these type of games, and then at the end, we just lose them. Yeah, I kind of jotted down a couple things here about Nebraska. I mean, with the way the Big Ten West is and the way our remaining schedule looks, we have every chance to get above 500. Will we? I don't know. I don't know if we'll finish the year 6-6 or 4-8 but I mean, the schedule we got, we have every chance to get back to a bowl this year. Did you know that Nebraska is the only team to have under 100 point scoring this year?
Defensive-wise.
In 5 games. In 5 games, we have under 100 point scoring.
Our defense.
We're the lowest scoring offense in the Big Ten.
Oh, okay.
Yes. We're under 100 points in 5 games.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Okay, so we play Illinois this week, and we have a bye week. And it concerns me for 2 reasons. One, if Sims gets healthy enough, do they insert him back into the offense, even though Harburg has been decent? And I say decent because he hasn't thrown a lot of interceptions, and he hasn't really turned the ball over much. He's had, I think, 1 interception in last game, and maybe it's more than that. I didn't really watch it too much, to be honest. But after the bye week, then we have Northwestern. We finish out October with Purdue at home. Then we're on the road at Michigan State. And then our last 3, Maryland at home, at Wisconsin, and at home against Iowa. Roger, I hope you're right. I hope we can get to 6-6 and get a bowl game, but the little things, the penalties, the turnovers, they got to stop doing that. And I don't know if they can. Okay.
It don't seem like it.
No, it really
don't
doesn't.
seem like it. It seems like they'll always make the mistakes that kill them.
We're not the best in the Big Ten. We're not even close.
No.
I say that because Roger and I, when we were trying to set up this show, we're thinking, what should we talk about? And Roger hit me with, there's a lot of parity. There's a lot of equal playing fields against a lot of these conferences. And we currently have 2 teams vying for a college football spot. One of them is number 2, Michigan. They're playing on the road at Minnesota. After this, Michigan plays 2 more ranked teams. They have Penn State November 11th, and then Ohio State, their final game, November the 25th. And since the West is so weak, they really don't have that big of a chance of meeting anybody in the Big Ten Conference Championship. And the same with Ohio State. Ohio State plays Maryland this weekend. After that, they play Penn State October 21st. And then, of course, again, Michigan is their final game. And you asked me, is the ACC or is the Pac-12 better than the Big Ten this year? So answer that for me. Who's better? ACC, Big Ten, Pac-12?
Well, from top to bottom, I think ACC, Pac-12, SEC, those 3 conferences are better than the Big Ten. Big 12, it looks to me like it's Texas, Oklahoma. They've only got 2 ranked teams. But the thing about the Big Ten is our big 3, Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, all three teams are ranked in the top 6. So we probably do have the best three-headed monster, whatever you want to call them. But from top to bottom, the Big Ten's not very good. Big Ten West is very bad. So,
do you think Maryland has a chance to stun Ohio State this weekend?
I do. I think they do have a chance. Maryland's averaging 38 points a game this year. Ohio State's averaging 34. So, yeah, Maryland can put up some points. And because of that reason, any time a team can score, 20, 30 points a game, they have a chance. I don't think they do it. I think Ohio State's got way too much offense, and I think they got enough defense to slow Maryland down some. Vegas has got the spread around 20, and that's kind of where I think it will end up. I think Ohio State will hit 40-something. Maryland will stay under 30. So I got it probably about 45 to 28, 45, 24, somewhere around that 20 mark.
I would love for Maryland to knock them off. By the numbers, looking at yards rushing, they're within 2 yards of each other. Both of them above 290 yards a game passing. I said that wrong. First I said rushing, but then that was their passing. They're both averaging over 290 yards a game passing. Rushing, they're both averaging over 140. Now, Maryland is actually averaging 157 yards, and Ohio State's at 149. But defensively, Ohio State looks better. So I agree with you, Roger. In my mind, I would love to pick Maryland all day long to come in with the upset. It could definitely happen.
Yeah, like I said, they score enough to where, yes, they could potentially beat them, but I just don't think their defense will have anything to stop Ohio State from scoring more points, and that's just how I feel about that one.
I agree. The defensive side, Ohio State holds people under 150 yards passing a game and under 110 yards rushing, where Maryland's just a little bit more loose on defense. They allow 211 yards passing a game and 116 yards rushing. So the nod does go to Ohio State. I think Maryland covers. I think Ohio State wins. And I think that 57 over-under is low. I think they both score above 30. But I think Maryland covers. But I think Ohio State really wants to get to that college football playoffs. And to do that, they have to score a lot of points. I do think Maryland allows them to score, but I also think Ohio State allows Maryland to score enough for them to cover. Now Michigan State, or I'm sorry, not Michigan State, Michigan. I think Michigan demolishes Minnesota.
I agree too. Michigan's played 5 games this year, and they've held everybody under 10 games. They've played 5 games, and they've held everybody under 10 points. They've only allowed 30 points overall. That's 6 points a game. Michigan's for real. I know last week Michigan played Nebraska. A lot of people were like, oh man, Nebraska is terrible. And I said, I agree. I don't think Nebraska's a good team, but because we got beat by Michigan 45-7, don't take nothing. I mean, Michigan's that good.
Michigan's amazing.
Their offense, defense, everything. So, I agree. Minnesota, they're not a very good football team either. They don't score a lot, and I do think Michigan rolls them up. I think Minnesota can hold Michigan into the 30s, but yeah, I think it'll be about Michigan will stay right on pat with their 6-7 points a game defense. I got it 34-7 Michigan.
A couple of weeks ago was the eye opener for me for Minnesota. You're at Northwestern, and it takes overtime for Northwestern to win, but it takes overtime for Minnesota to lose. Northwestern is not that good this year. And their wins have been against a University of Louisiana Raging Cajuns. They let them score 24 points. So that 18.5, 19, wherever you see the Michigan number, I think that's low. I'm taking Michigan all day long to cover, and I'm thinking the overs all day long. Last I saw, the overs were at 46. So, again, it sounds like, Roger, you and I are in agreement. Michigan continues to roll.
Yeah. Like I said, I think Minnesota will hold Michigan to 30 points, 35, somewhere around there. So I do got them going under. But
okay.
Yeah, I got, like I said, 34-7, so I got it at 41. So if you say the over-under is what, 40?
I saw 46.
Okay, so yeah, I would have the unders on that then.
Okay, I'm taking overs, Roger's taking unders. We both agree that Michigan's going to win. We differ a little bit on the scoring. I just, the reason I'm thinking overs, Michigan wants to prove to the people to get the best seed. Now, part of that is wins outright. The other part of that is how much you score.
Yeah.
So that's where I think Michigan is just going to blow them out of the water this week. Let's see. I had also brought up some stuff about the Pac-12. And the Pac-12 this week, we have a couple of teams playing that are looking for a playoff spot. One of them was Arizona USC. Do you think USC has any issue with this game?
No, I don't think so.
I really don't think so either. This is a Saturday game. It's a late game. It's 9:30 Central. USC is favored by 21, and I think that's easily attainable. The overs that I'm looking at right now are 72. Now, granted, this might not be that big of a game for USC as far as quality of play from Arizona, but coming up next week, they have Notre Dame. After that, they have Utah. Then the following week, they have a bye, I believe. After that, it's Washington. And then they have Oregon. So, Roger, my question, is this potentially the toughest schedule for a team wanting to make a playoff spot?
It sure sounds like it looking at it. I haven't looked at every team's schedule from here on out, but I'm sure there ain't a whole lot of teams that have a schedule close to that or equal or whatever. But if there is a team, it would be like one of the teams they're playing. It would be a Washington or an Oregon. Because just a quick note I got here is the Washington Huskies' last 4 games of the year is against all ranked teams. Now, will they be ranked when they play them? Probably a couple of them might not be, because I have the Pac-12 being left out of the playoffs this year because of every team beating each other up. That's just how I look at that.
That's a great outlook. It could definitely happen because they all basically have to play each other between now and the end of the season.
Yep.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Roger. Keep going with your thought.
No, that's all I had. I think the Pac-12 is very tough this year, but at the same time, if every team at the end has 2 losses, are they going to be such a tough conference to where they'll look at a 2-loss Pac-12 team over a 1-loss Big Ten? Not if it's Michigan or Ohio State. They just won't.
I don't remember the last time they had a 2-loss team in the playoffs.
I don't know if it's happened. I don't think it has.
They had Alabama, which was a 1-loss team. But you're right. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I'm just guessing here that I think it was just the 1-loss Alabama team that was in the college football playoff.
Yeah, and Ohio State was a 1-loss team when they won it all. But yeah, that's a good question. I don't think there has been a 2-loss team in the playoff before, but I could be wrong.
Okay, I paused our recording and I don't remember exactly where we left off, Roger. I had routed a cable wrong and we kept hitting it. So we were talking about Arizona USC. The overs are at 72. I think USC wins. Looking at Arizona's last few games, they lost to Washington 31-24. So I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say Arizona covers because I don't think USC's defense is that good.
They gave up 41 to Colorado last week.
And I think the overs all day long. And you're right. They gave up a lot to Colorado. Now, Colorado is a decent school, and they can put up numbers at the drop of a hat, blink of an eye, just whatever euphemism you want to say and throw out there. So I thought that was a good second half for Colorado. But overall, looking at USC and their chance to get into a college football playoff, their defense isn't there. That's why I'm saying Arizona covers, USC wins, and the overs all day long.
Yeah, USC might be one of them teams, like you was saying about Michigan too. They're going to look to score a lot of points because if their defense ain't that good, you got to try to get everybody to turn their heads on something. So if USC tries to hang 50 or 60 points on everybody, yeah, who knows? I agree with you on USC not having a very good defense. I'll go back to saying what I said about the Pac-12 beating each other up, keeping the Pac-12 out of the playoff. So, yeah.
All right. Do you have USC winning, and then do you think they cover?
Yeah, I have USC winning big. I think USC will score 50. Arizona probably scores 21. So it's probably right around that over-under.
The other Pac-12 game, which is an undefeated Washington State against UCLA, which is 3-1. And I'm seeing UCLA favored by 3.5. And the overs are set at 59.5. So I don't know. Honestly, I don't know about this one. I was a little shocked when Washington State beat Oregon State. Now, that was a close game, 38-35. I thought Oregon State was going to get it done at the last few.
Yeah, I had Oregon State, too. I thought Oregon State would win that game.
Yeah. The lone loss for UCLA is against Utah, in Utah. Incredibly low-scoring game, and that shows how good their defense is. They held Utah to 2 touchdowns. The unfortunate side of that is UCLA only scored 1. So I think that UCLA comes in and hands Washington State their first loss, and they easily cover that 3.5. And looking back, the overs unders for me, looking back at that Utah game, I'm going to say unders. So UCLA covers, and then unders. I know Utah is vastly different than Washington State on how they do their offense. But the over is set at 59.5 or 60, wherever you're looking at. I think UCLA holds Washington to maybe 2 touchdowns, and then the rest is UCLA scoring. And that's how I get to the unders.
Yeah, I think this will be a low-scoring game. I'm on the other side. I think Washington State will score just enough to win. They'll score, I'll have it around 20, 24 points. Yeah, I'm looking at Washington State winning it, let's say 20-14.
Okay.
So, yeah, I have it a very low-scoring game for college football. But, yeah, I just don't think UCLA will slow down Washington State enough to beat them in a low-scoring game. So, yeah, I got Washington State winning.
You could definitely be right. Yeah. Washington State has already beaten Colorado State, who showed that they are a very tough school against Colorado. They've beaten Wisconsin 31-22. Washington State then beat Oregon State, who potentially has a Heisman Trophy vote getter at quarterback. So, Roger, you could definitely be right. So if Washington State pulls it out, I think they go up a couple notches in the rankings and their playoff hopes stay alive. If not, let's see if UCLA can get it done and what happens to the rest of their season. Again, it's a very interesting schedule for the Pac-12. For the rest of the season, looking ahead for UCLA, November 18th, they have to play USC. And then they also have Colorado coming up, as well as after this weekend, UCLA plays Oregon State. So they have a tough road ahead of them as well. Now I want to switch to SEC. Georgia's remaining schedule might be tied for difficulty with USC's. Now, not including Kentucky this week, their final schedule is at Vanderbilt, home against Florida, home against Missouri, home against Mississippi, on the road at Tennessee, and on the road at Georgia Tech. That's tough. And I don't think Georgia's looked that good this year. They are undefeated, but they're not dominant like they have been in the past on the defensive side. Now, if they win it again this year, that's 3 in a row. I think I said the exact same thing, that they didn't look that dominant earlier in the season, but late in the season, they really started going. Yes, they're 5-0. They're coming into a weekend where they're playing Kentucky, who's ranked 20th, who is also undefeated. I think this is a great game. And I'm going to throw it out there. I think Kentucky upsets them. Georgia is favored by 14.5. Depending on where you look, 14, 15, somewhere in there. And overs are at 47.5.
Yeah.
What do you think, Roger?
Yeah, I haven't watched a whole lot of Georgia. I did see Georgia start out really slow against South Carolina. And that kind of got me watching that game. But then Georgia kind of pulled away in the second half and won that game. As far as it being as tough of a schedule as USC's, I don't see it being as tough. I mean, it sounds tough now, but Missouri, Mississippi, Tennessee, they all lose again. They could all be out of that top 25. Yeah, I don't see this as tough as a schedule as USC's, but we'll see. I mean, like I said, I don't know. I do think Kentucky is a surprise. I do like them a little more than the other three. Tennessee, they don't impress me. I'm not a big Tennessee fan.
No?
So I think Georgia runs the table and gets back to the playoff. Hopefully there's a team out there that can knock them off. I don't want to see them three-peat, but earlier in the year, I said that Georgia looks like they're going to three-peat, but Alabama is back. When Alabama lost to Texas, I thought, well, maybe this is the year Alabama loses 2, 3, 4 games. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Alabama's back. Alabama's going to be Georgia's toughest match in the SEC championship game. So
they have to get by Kentucky, and you're saying they do? You say they run the table, they go undefeated until the SEC championship game.
Alabama's playing Georgia again in the SEC championship.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I'm just picking an upset just to be silly because I think University of Kentucky has a chance. They're holding people to 75 yards rushing, and that's against Florida, Vanderbilt, Akron Zips. No big whoop there, but Georgia 27-20 against Auburn, won there. South Carolina 24-14. They're a good team. I think this is just their first test, and it could come down to a couple mistakes, and that's how University of Kentucky gets out with a win. That's just how I'm looking at it.
I'll root for them.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely will too. I definitely will too. Give me your thoughts on this Texas OU game. What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, I was all ready to pick Texas hands down, but, looking at a few things just because it's going to be a good game again. And like I said, it usually is. I do think Texas wins. I guess just because I think they will. I mean, they beat Alabama earlier in the year. They're playing with the chip on their shoulder. And I think they have to win. I think everybody expects them. I think they're going to go in, and I think they're going to get it done. I think, like I said, I think they have to win. If they lose this game, everybody's going to be like, oh, here we go. Texas lost again. Just when we thought they were good.
That was a
So-
huge win against Alabama. And
huge.
And I think that gave them the mindset for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the last podcast we did, we touched on that Alabama-Texas game. And that was Nick Saban's first non-conference loss since his first season at Alabama. So, yeah, that's absolutely huge. I mean, that might be one of the bigger wins we've seen in college football in a lot of years. Texas beating Alabama was that big. And I think Texas is playing with a lot of confidence. And like I said, I think they have to go in and with the attitude, we have to win this game.
They do.
And I think they get in there and they do it.
And it's a home game for Texas. So that gives them.
Well, it's in Dallas.
Okay.
It's in Texas.
No,
yes.
You're right.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me.
But it's always at that Red River or whatever, however they call it.
It's the Red River rivalry.
Yeah.
And it's not a traditional home game.
Yeah.
But it's still played in Texas. So that's why I'm calling it a home game for Texas.
Every year, home game.
Yeah. It's at the Cotton Bowl. It's played in Dallas, Texas.
Yep.
So, but that doesn't mean Oklahoma doesn't travel. I'm just saying if you had the Red River rivalry and you played in Stillwater at Oklahoma State instead of playing at the Cotton Bowl, I would give the swing to say, it's a home game for Oklahoma.
Yeah. I hear you. Yeah.
Okay, so Texas is favored by 5.5. I agree. I think they win, and I think they cover because you're right. They have a chip on their shoulder. Now, the overs at 61, I'm going to say the unders. I think Oklahoma keeps it close just for the defense. Oklahoma allows just a shade over 100 yards rushing a game. Texas, just a shade over 90. Passing, Oklahoma allows 212. Texas allows 196. But they're both such high-powered offense. And it's going to come down to little mistakes. It's going to come down to that one penalty that's holding or that one penalty that's on a kickoff that gives somebody an extra bit of shorter field. But I think it's Texas that comes out on top. And I think they cover, just like you say. They have something to prove. They want to win the Big 12, and they want a spot in the college football championship playoffs before they go to the SEC.
Yes.
And I think they do it this week.
And there are a few teams out there. I mean, you have teams like USC and the Pac-12 who, in my mind, the committee, the College Football Playoff Committee, wants to get them in. So if they're undefeated or they're a one-loss team, I mean, they have a great chance of getting there. A team like Washington State loses one game, the committee don't think as highly on them.
Right.
There's several teams out there. Texas is one of them in the Big 12. The committee wants Texas in that college football playoff.
Yes, they do.
You know, the committee wants that Ohio State or that Michigan. You know, there's just certain teams that just they think highly of more than others. And, you know, Texas is one of them. If Texas is one loss or an undefeated team, they're in.
Just a quick peek ahead, looking at Texas' schedule here on out. Oklahoma tomorrow. Then you have on the road at Houston, BYU, Kansas State, at TCU, at Iowa State, and then Texas Tech. And then, of course, they'll have the Big 12 championship game. But kind of like Georgia, what you're thinking, I think Texas runs the table and stays undefeated all the way to the college, the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, and I'm calling the same thing because that, like I said, that win over Alabama, I think, has these guys playing very hard, and I think they won it.
Any other thoughts on any of the conferences and how they're looking at in college?
Well, just going back to Texas, we were talking about a home game, you know, typically a home game against Oklahoma because it's played in Texas. I remember several years ago, and it's probably happened more than once, when Texas would travel. They would travel to teams like Baylor and Texas Tech, and then they would play the rest of their games either at their home stadium or at Dallas. And I remember hearing this, that there was a few seasons when Texas played every game on their schedule in the state of Texas. And I was just like, yeah, they never travel. They play 12 home games or 11 home games. Or
Earlier
Yeah.
I said that there's going to be a Big 12 championship game. But since they've changed, is there a Big 12 championship game this year?
I think so. I mean, they don't have divisions. I did see that. The Big 12, the Pac-12, and the ACC just have one conference. The SEC and the Big 10 are the only conferences that are split into two different divisions. So I think they just take the top two teams and play a championship game.
Yeah, it does look like you're correct. So December 2nd, 2023, AT&T Stadium is where they'll have the Dr. Pepper Big 12 Football Championship, and they take the Big Two. So
Yeah.
It could be like the SEC years ago. Alabama played in the championship game, as well as what was it? Oh man, LSU or Tennessee that beat them in the championship game, and then they still went on to the college football playoffs. So what I'm saying is Oklahoma and Texas could meet each other again in the Big 12 championship game.
Yes.
So
Yes.
This weekend is huge for them. If they split this game and the Big 12 championship, does Texas still stay in? As we're talking, who knows? But you're right. I think the voters would want them in because their fans travel, and it would make for great television. Shall we move on to the big MLB playoffs?
Oh, heck yeah. Let's do it.
All right.
That's what I'm going to be watching this weekend.
So Roger is a huge Braves fan. And do you think there's a chance for the Braves, who won the World Series 2 years ago, and for them to meet the Astros won last year?
Yes.
So is there a chance that the Braves meet the Astros in the World Series?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. The Astros aren't the best team in the American League. The Baltimore Orioles have the number 1 seed, but the Astros are the number 2 seed. Of course, the Braves are the 1 seed in the NL, and Dodgers is the number 2 seed. But I think the Braves play, and I wish they could be a 7-game series. I wish they would have met them in the NLCS instead of the division series, but they play the Phillies in the division series, and the Phillies were the team that knocked out the Braves last year, almost under certain similarities. The Braves were a 100 win team last year. The Phillies came in with 85 wins. This year, the Braves are a 104 win team. The Phillies are a 90. So last year they were about 14 games better. This year they're 14 games better. But Phillies beat them last year, and I'd really like the Phillies starters, Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, and the Phillies bullpen's tough. It ain't gonna shock me at all if the Phillies knock them off. I think the Phillies are that good. But this year the Braves offense is a different story. They are unbelievable. They score a lot of runs, and if they keep scoring that type of runs, they can win this whole thing because they are, yeah. Braves are the only team in Major League Baseball history to have a team slugging percentage of .501. They're hitting the ball hard, and they're hitting for extra base hits, and when people are on, they're scoring. So
I looked up a couple of things, and they are tying a single-season home run record with a lineup that became the first to feature 4 players, the Braves are, with 35-plus home runs. And they can win at home and on the road. They can get on base against lefties and righties. It doesn't matter who's pitching, basically. Now, for the Phillies, what I saw was interesting. They were 21st in the majors through the end of July with home runs. Now, at the end of the season, they hit 59 in August, 46 in September, which then tied the Braves for their most home runs over the final 2 months. And this team, just like last year, the Phillies are peaking. You have Bryce Harper, who love him or hate him. That's how divisive this player is.
Yeah.
There's people that absolutely hate this guy. There's people that absolutely love this guy. And then you have Kyle Schwarber. Those two guys, they're really leading the way for this. And what I found very interesting is that their depth of bullpen, Craig Kimbrell, Greg Soto, Jose Alvarado, Jeff Hoffman, Matt Strom, Dominguez. If that pitching slows the Braves, you're right, they could. But man, the Braves.
Yeah.
The Braves.
Yeah. They, like I said, their offense is something else. So
I read
if their offense stumbles some, I give the whole thing to Philadelphia. But if the Braves offense can keep going, they'll win. They'll win. Because if you're scoring 6+ runs a game, you're going to win a lot of games. And that's what the Braves are doing.
I read an article where the sports writer from ESPN looked at the murderer's row of Yankees with Ruth and Gehrig, the Brooklyn Dodgers of the 50s, the Big Red Machine, and then also the Red Sox of 2004. And he put this year's Braves in with their offenses that they could be one of the most fearsome lineups of all time. And that's how great they are. They've dominated the regular season.
Yeah.
But we thought that they were going to dominate last year.
Well, just seeing that the Braves slugging is .501, and no team has ever done that. Not even the 27 Yankees. I mean, that shows you right there that offense is just, they're hitting the ball. They're hitting the ball.
Orioles. I want to talk about the Orioles. The Orioles are going to take on the Rangers. They've lost closer Felix Bautista. He's officially done for the season, undergo Tommy John surgery. Now you're looking at a Baltimore bullpen that's been dominant, but they don't have a few people. I find this so interesting. Last year, the Orioles almost were in contention in a very difficult division. The year prior had 110 losses. And this year, they have surged through a 100+ win season, and they might have the AL Rookie of the Year on their roster. He's 22 years old, Gunnar Henderson. So it should be an interesting matchup for against the Rangers. The Rangers have the worst bullpen ERA right now of all the playoff teams, but they've won 11 games by 10 or more runs throughout the season. And this is the most of any other team in MLB. So this should be a very interesting matchup with the Rangers and the Orioles. What do you think about that matchup?
Well, all 4 series, the first wild card series, they were all swept. There really wasn't good baseball, if you look at it that way. Both the Twins, the Texas, Arizona, and Philadelphia, they took care of business, and Texas's starting pitching only gave up 1 run in 2 games. Do I think that they hold the Orioles to 1 run in multiple games? No, I don't. But Texas starting pitching is doing good. And anytime a game can be 3-2, 3-1, it can go either way. And so I think the Orioles get it done. Again, I think Orioles are a hungry team. Like you said, they come from worst to first. I think the Orioles get it done, but again, it wouldn't shock me if Texas slows their offense down and wins this game.
I didn't watch much of the wild card, but the outcomes really shocked me that they were all sweeps. And 2 of the underdogs came out on top, and then 2 of the favored teams came out on top. So it was kind of an interesting start of the Major League playoffs. Now, the Twins and the Astros. The the Twins are kind of beat up at the moment. They have the ability of their pitchers to dominate the strike zone, and they have led the majors this season in strikeout percentage and are ranked 4th in walk percentage. So that's huge pitching for the Twins. But they're up against the Astros. The Astros pitching is amazing as well, especially the bullpen. And they're not hitting the best this season, but the pitching isn't as good as last year for the Astros, depending on who you talk to. But can Houston become the first team to win consecutive World Series since the Yankees won 3 in a row from 98 to 2000? If they do, they have to get past the Twins. And the Twins got past a huge milestone of their own by getting a win in the playoffs for the first time in a long time. So what do you think about this series, Roger?
Well, again, Minnesota's starting pitching, and the wild card rounds were dominated by pitching. Minnesota's pitching, also starting pitching, only allowed 1 run in 2 games. Do I think they hold the Astros to 1 run and 2? No, I don't. I would give the Astros starting pitching the nod too. So, offense, defense, everything combined, I think the Astros are the better team here. But Minnesota, man, watching those games, I've never seen a baseball crowd, as loud as that Minnesota crowd was. I mean, that was a football atmosphere at a baseball game. I mean, it was pretty exciting to listen to that crowd just nonstop. Just, every pitch was loud, every strike was louder, every out was even louder. It was pretty cool. So again, if Minnesota brings that type of firepower and that, just will to win, I mean, and the Astros are up and down this year. They've struggled a lot. I mean, I have a friend who's a huge Astros fan, and he's just like, man, they can't score. They can't score. It's just, I think the Astros are a better team, and it is postseason. Astros seem to show up when postseason rolls around, but it wouldn't surprise me if Minnesota don't get this thing done. So
I think that would be fun for a Twins team, a wild card team, to get past last year's College World Series winner. Kind of reminiscent of, unfortunately, what happened against your Braves last year. So yeah. I'm right there with you. I'm rooting for the Twins.
And Houston does have the home field. So they only have to play 2 games at Minnesota.
Right.
So that might help them. It might be a 5-game series. A home game wins everything.
Yeah. We briefly discussed your Braves at home against the Phillies. The last one on the Saturday Major League Baseball playoff, Arizona at the Dodgers. The Dodgers. So they have one of your former Braves in Freddie Freeman, right? And Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman might have carried this team the entire season, and they're going to continue to rely on him. But also, the Dodgers have tied a Major League Baseball record, 3 straight 100-win seasons. And it's kind of a what if. Would it have been 5 in a row had they played the entire 2020 season? That's a what if. Yeah. Who knows? And then Arizona. The one stat that I pulled out for Arizona that really shocked me, they had 161 stolen bases and did this with a Major League best 87% success rate. So they can drive whoever is on the mound just absolutely bonkers crazy by stealing bases left and right. What do you think about this matchup?
Well, again, Dodgers have 16 more wins in Arizona this year. Dodgers were 100 wins, 101. Arizona 85. But we've all seen Dodgers in the postseason. They won the 2020 World Series. Of course, that was the COVID year. Some people count it, some people don't. Is what it is. And the other years, Dodgers have laid an egg.
Yeah.
They've been the favorite to win the World Series multiple times, and they've lost. Maybe even before the World Series. I think the Dodgers are the better team by far here. But do they pull the Dodgers and lose? We'll see.
Yeah. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say that Arizona gets that underdog win from them and advance on. Just because I'm sick of the Dodgers for whatever reason.
Yeah, Arizona has the Rookie of the Year too. I can't think of his name. Connor. I can't even think of his name now. But he's a little guy. I mean, little. And he's like a 25, 30 home run guy, 40 stolen, I think. 25 homers and 40 stolen, I think is what he did this year. Or maybe 25, 50. They were talking about it, and I can't remember it now. But yeah, he's a heck of a player.
Let's see here. I'm trying to find some stuff here. Corbin Carroll.
There you go. Corbin Carroll.
Carroll has become the first player ever to combine 50-plus steals with 25-plus home runs, 10-plus triples in the same season.
Yeah.
And he's a rookie.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah, he's and like I said, you root for guys like that because when you watch him up at the plate and the catcher behind the plate looks as big as him, it's, he's another Jose Altuve, Root for the little guy,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. 50-plus steals, 25-plus homers, and 10-plus triples in the same season.
Yep.
That's a heck of a stat for a rookie.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. All right, go Arizona. Let's see if they can't top the Dodgers. So that brings us, I'm sorry. Did you have anything else on the Major League Playoffs that you wanted to talk about that we didn't touch on?
No, I'm kind of looking down my little stats. I think we kind of, touched on everything.
Okay. That brings us to the offseason for NBA trades. And you wanted to discuss that. Go ahead. I'll let you start
Well,
off.
I guess I kind of brought it up because I know you kind of get into the NBA a little more than I do. But Damian Lillard going to the Bucks sounds pretty big to me. Now I know the Celtics turn around and got Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
Which I did see a thing on Vegas where as soon as Lillard went to Milwaukee, Vegas has Milwaukee as the favorites to win the whole thing. And then as soon as the Celtics got Drew Holiday, the Celtics took barely the edge in the NBA playoffs. And I didn't realize that Drew Holiday was that big of a player in some people's eyes, So
I'm going to call it the fallout. The fallout from that Milwaukee Buck trade with Damian Lillard is huge. So the Bucks traded away Grayson Allen. Not a fan of the guy Grayson Allen. The player Grayson Allen can drop threes in the bucket like nobody's business. And he went to the Phoenix Suns. Now that is a great get for the Suns. They also get Yusuf Nurkic. That is a great get for the Phoenix Suns. This trade is not just about the Bucks, but this moved so many players around the NBA with this one trade, and everybody's focused on Damian Lillard and how great this is going to be. I'm not sold on them gelling. I'm really not. To me, this is more of a James Harden, who is a great player. Damian Lillard is a great player. But will they gel? Will he give up the ball as much? Will he allow other people to score? Will he accept his role?
Yeah.
And them giving up some other players, them being the Bucks, on paper, this looks like a great trade.
Yeah.
But they all have to play together.
Yeah.
And this is a short off season now for Damian Lillard to get up to speed with his brand new teammates. we're right around the corner from the NBA preseason starting. So if Milwaukee Bucks are going to do great, I think they're going to have a slow start to the season. Now, on the other side of this trade, Malcolm Brogdon and Robert Williams III left the Celtics. They went to Portland. Drew Holiday left the Bucks and went to Portland. Portland immediately sent Drew Holiday to the Celtics. Portland also gets DeAndre Ayton, which I think that makes them worse. I'm not sold on DeAndre Ayton. I don't know what happened to that kid. I don't know where his head's at when he plays. He does some weird stuff. He can be great, but he's not. So that's where I'm at with this whole Damian Lillard trade. It wasn't just one guy. This impacted so many teams with that trade.
And the other thing I know about Damian Lillard is he hits some big shots at the end of games. I mean, they call him one of the most clutch shooters of all time. But what I do know about Damian Lillard is these clutch shots he's hitting are in the regular season. Because I don't remember Portland ever being in a Eastern Conference Finals or a Western Conference Finals, or they're Western Conference, right? So Western Conference Finals are an NBA Finals. So is he going to hit these big shots for Milwaukee? Because Milwaukee can go deep in the playoffs.
Oh, yes, they can.
So if Damian Lillard is Mr. Clutch and he hits these big shots in these big games, Milwaukee's the team to beat. I mean, that's just how I look at it. But again, I mean, things can change. You've seen great players go to better teams, and those better teams become worse teams. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've seen great players go to good teams, and they become worse teams. Yeah. So I love Damian Lillard as a player. He is fun to watch.
And what little bit I do watch of the there's one other team in the Eastern Conference I think of besides the Celtics and the Bucks, and that's the Cleveland Cavaliers. Are they a team to make it deep in the playoffs? I don't know about that, but I could see Cleveland Cavaliers winning the most games in the Eastern Conference during the regular season because I think they're that good.
They are.
What little bit I've watched.
They have some young players that are really talented, and if they continue building on that, it's great. So seriously, today is the 6th, October the 6th. And this is how close we are to the start of the season. The 11th, October the 11th, the Boston Celtics have a preseason game against Philadelphia. I doubt too many starters play a whole lot of minutes. Milwaukee Bucks, first preseason, October the 15th. I don't know if Damian Lillard plays, but also the Phoenix Suns. So the Phoenix Suns, that's huge, getting some of these players like Grayson Allen and Yusuf Nurkic. I think that adds so much depth to the Phoenix Suns, who are a great team. Their first preseason game is October the 12th, and that's against Portland. So I can't wait for the NBA season to get going and get further into the season to see how these trades actually work out, because it can be huge.
You say Juros Nurkic?
Yusuf Nurkic.
Yusuf Nurkic. Is he a center?
Yeah.
So he will take over DeAndre Ayton's spot?
Possibly.
And Ayton's at Portland?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Yusuf Nurkic, he was at Denver, and then they got.
I see a face when you say that name. I think I got the right guy.
Yeah. So he got displaced out of Denver because of. Oh man, my brain just really shut off there all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Nurkic just got displaced because of Nikola Jokic. Became the number one center.
Yeah.
So then he left and went to Portland, was doing great stuff with Portland. Now he's with the Phoenix Suns. So I wish there was a fast forward button like that horrible Adam Sandler movie Click. Fast forward to the middle of the season to see where all these things play out, what all happens. But great time to be a fan of sports. College football full swing, NFL full swing. Your Braves are just starting their series for Major League Baseball playoffs, and right around the corner, NBA basketball is going to start. So lots of fun. Any parting thoughts? Any additional things that you
Well,
wanted to touch on?
You just said something about the NFL, and we didn't touch on any NFL, but I don't know. This year's kind of weird. I mean, you got, just to me, it just seems like there's not a whole lot of great. This is a quarterback league now, and it just don't seem like there's a whole lot of great quarterback player. Not a whole lot of it going on. I mean, you got Tua that's just lighting it up, but you watched Pat Mahomes the other day against the Jets play about as bad as a quarterback could play. And he should have had worse numbers if the referees didn't help him out by throwing flags. So, yeah. The NFL right now just ain't got me too excited. And, maybe everything will change, But, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up about the quarterback play. To me, it just don't look too exciting.
Since you mentioned the Jets, the one thing that I bring up about the Jets, everybody's talking about how Zach Wilson is bad. I don't personally think Zach Wilson's that bad.
Zach Wilson outplayed Pat Mahomes. I mean, he did in that game.
I think Zach Wilson's offensive line is what makes him look bad. He doesn't have time. Now, Aaron Rodgers only played 2 or 3 snaps before he got hurt, and I put all that blame, again, on the Jets' offensive line.
Yeah.
I think if you give Zach Wilson a good offensive line and gave him some time to operate, that gave him consistent blocking schemes, even if he knew exactly which way they're going to push, I think Zach Wilson would shine. And I think that is the main problem with the Jets right now. And that's my only thought on the NFL. Other than earlier before we started recording, Roger asked me something that we had mentioned weeks prior. Barry Sanders. Amazon Prime Video release date, Tuesday, November 21st of this year. Documentary about Barry Sanders. Now, that is something that I can't wait for. I love Barry Sanders. That guy was an amazing player on an amazingly crappy Detroit Lions team. Detroit's looking good this year, on a side note. But November 21st, Amazon Prime. I think they're calling it Bye Bye Barry, and it's a documentary about Barry Sanders and how he decided to retire in his prime. So,
yeah. And I don't know exactly what forced that whole thing, why I know he was holding out for some contract or whatever, and then before they could, even get to the season, he just said, I'll quit. That's all I really know about it. But yeah, I always kind of wanted to know the true story, why he just all of a sudden quit. But sounds to me like if they do this, they're going to do one on Calvin Johnson, because he did the same thing. He retired,
at the height of his career.
Yeah, he was he might be the best wide receiver we've ever seen. I mean, the combination of size and strength and speed. I mean, the guy was 6'5", 240 wide receiver. And you couldn't stop him. And he hit 30 years old and he said, I'm done too. And it's just funny that both guys might be the best at their position. They both played for the Lions and retired early. So, yeah.
Very interesting. Roger, great to have you back in here and recording some stuff with us.
Yep.
I appreciate it. Any other parting thoughts?
No. Nope, I ain't got nothing else.
All right.
I think we touched on everything. I'll be watching baseball this weekend. Football, nah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It should be a fun baseball weekend.
Yep.
That was Roger.
Bye.
I'm Daryl. Go watch some sports.